back to another episode of Lies My Vagina Told Me. Today we are time traveling back to the early 90s of New York City, when the clubs were filthy, the fashion was fearless, and my lying vagina was just getting started. Joining me today is the iconic Miss Guy, downtown drag royalty, singer, DJ, makeup artist, now photographer, who was, to me, the living, breathing embodiment of that wild, glitter-soaked era. Now, if you weren't there, don't worry. We were. And I have maybe just enough memory to tell you what mattered. Please welcome the lead singer of the Toilet Boys and the most glamorous boy I know, Miss Guy.
Hi,
How
Bridget.
was
Can you do
that?
that? Can you do that whole intro over, please?
Yeah,
Kidding.
I can because I wrote it because I can't fucking remember anything. I can't remember
It was a
shit.
beautiful intro. Thank
The
you.
good in, I hope, I mean, it's impossible to cover everything that you are and you do because you're just a fucking force. But I want to say to people, like I did a show about Hollywood in the 90s and it was very specific. But the early 90s in New York, I moved in 86. When did you move here?
I got here at the very end of 85, October of 85.
Okay, so just always a little bit ahead of me, Miss Guy. Always a little bit ahead of me.
I planned that.
Yeah, you planned that. It was a fucking nutball time. Now, I was I don't know if you were, but I was a fucking virgin from Canada. And so I didn't understand the chaos that was happening around me. Like, I'm doing this thing in front of a window, and across the street, when I moved into this building, my neighbor, just a little East Village story, he had chopped up his girlfriend and fed her to the homeless. That's that guy. That was my neighbor. And so
Wow, you're
it
in
was,
that building, or he's on your block.
he
He
was,
was on your block.
he was on my block. He was on my, I talked to him once. He told me he was Jesus Christ. And I stayed talking to him. He was kind of cute. I have a thing for, I thought Ramirez the Night Stalker was good looking.
Well, I'm glad you didn't end up soup for
I
the
did
homeless.
not end up soup. I'd at least be a chili.
Was that his girlfriend or his someone? I don't remember exactly
I
the
remember the
story.
story if he was obsessed with her or
Right.
whatever. But I mean, while we were being glamorous, young, fabulous, and at all the right places with all the most interesting people, that was also happening this time in New York City. But I mean, I will also say that when I got to New York, I was like, oh, I'm 10 years too late because the coolest era was the Studio 54 era where Michael Jackson still had an afro. And I would have loved to have been old enough to be there. But in retrospect, I think we had the last of the great epoch in New York. Do you agree?
Yeah, I always have said the same thing, that I wish my oldest brother 10 years older than me, and I moved here at 18. I wished that for many years that I was born when he was born, because I would have moved to New York in 1975 instead of 1985. I would have been able to see CBGB's and Max's Kansas City and Studio
Studio
54 and the Mud
54.
Club. I also feel like I would have been dead if I had moved to New York in 1975 instead of 85, because, AIDS was already a thing in the news when I was still a kid in high school in Southern California. So I came here knowing about it and knowing that you have to be careful.
Yeah.
And, but also we had some great clubs in the second half of the 80s and also throughout the 90s. But I mean, I got to go to Area, I'm sure you did too, and
Yes,
Palladium and
at the
Limelight
tail
and
end, and Palladium. Whenever I have to get an
Area.
MRI, I pretend I'm in the bathroom of the Palladium. It's the same sound.
Oh yeah, Danceteria too, which I don't know if you ever went, but that was really great
I
too. The
missed it.
last few
I missed Danceteria. I went to, what was the fucking one with the church?
Limelight.
Limelight. That was Limelight. Limelight was amazing.
Pyramid was great. Boy Bar was great.
I
A
think
lot
I
of
met you at
rock
Cat
bar,
Club.
the Cat Club,
I
of
met
course.
you. I met you at
Yeah.
Cat Club. I mean, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This guy, he was just it. Like, girls loved him. Boys loved him. My straight boyfriend loved him. That's my memory of it. I don't know if he was my boyfriend. Everyone loved you. And you were glamorous and a rock star and in it, but you were always so sweet. and kind. And a lot of people had a lot of attitude in that day. There was a lot of, that was part of it. But you never did, or you never seemed to. You were approachable, even though you were so fucking like, oh my God, nobody could come near you. No girl could be as beautiful. No boy could be as handsome. Nobody could do what you did on stage because you transformed in your fucking punk rock band. I mean, like, what was that like for you? How did the Toilet Boys start? How did that whole rock and roll world start for you?
Well, I moved to New York to start a band, but it took me, a good decade to meet the right people. And although I was really into a lot of the local New York bands of the late 80s, and I loved the Cat Club on Wednesday nights. And, I was friends with the DJ Joe, so I went a lot. And I had friends that were in bands, but I had a pretty strong vision of what I wanted to do. I wasn't meeting anybody that I felt wanted to do what I wanted to do. Plus, I was also very shy, so I wouldn't go up to someone and be like, "Yeah, I want to start a band. You know
Yeah.
anybody who plays guitar that would like to start a band?" And but I felt like I was doing performances at Boy Bar and drag and in the meantime, and that was really good for like being on a stage in a crowded venue. And my look at the time was just sort of a mishmash of things that I loved growing up and
How would you describe it?
influ
You were every sexy thing rolled into one, and yet uniquely guy.
Well, thank you. I was very thin, so clothes looked good on me, and I liked high heels. I wore high heels a lot. I loved makeup. I wore makeup every day for the first like 2.5 years that I lived in New York. It
Wow.
was sort of like being away from my hometown and my family and people I went to school with. I felt very free to do and look however I wanted.
We came and reinvented ourselves. Do you know what I did? This brilliant girl did. I decided to pretend that I only spoke French, right? I came from Montreal and I was like, what? Quoi? Je ne comprends pas. That I only spoke French. And fuck me, I met the man that I was going to live with my first day in New York. Joey, the Puerto Rican sword swallower. Luckily, he wasn't that bright because I had to slowly wean myself off French till one day he said, Bridget, your English is getting so good.
That's
When I
hilarious.
realized he was just not quite smart enough for me. But yeah, we were all reinventing ourselves. I believe we met through our late great mutual friend Pat Briggs, who was the lead singer of the band Are You Ready? A staple at the Cat Club. He went on to be in Psychotica and a bunch of different bands, and we lost him a couple years ago. I remember being backstage with him and loving a fucking pair of pants you had on, and you being so kind and saying, Here, you can try them on or you can wear them. And I could not get them past the Judaism of my butt because you were so skinny. I was
Oh
skinny
yeah.
too, but you were skinnier.
I was very skinny. I mean, we were all thin in
We
those
were all,
days, weren't
nobody ate.
Yeah, yeah, nobody ate. We
No,
did it. We went out. You'd have a slice of pizza in the day, and that would be it, and then
it
drink all night.
sustained you. Good
Yeah,
times.
but I used to squeeze. I up until the maybe even the early 2000s, definitely to the late 90s. I would squeeze myself into anything. If it was too small, a pair of pants, I didn't care if I could get them fastened and it felt like it was cutting me in half and whatever. I'd wear them out all night because I didn't care. They fit me. I'm wearing them out. I like them. I'm wearing them out. But now I would never do that.
We
In
know
fact,
me.
I got
We
rid
want
of
comfort. So you did the thing
yeah,
lying on the bed with the feet up and the thing and just got
everything.
into them. Yeah, we were
Yeah, and I
fucking.
remember coming home, drunk at 4 a.m. or 4:30 in skin tight pants, jeans that were so tight I could barely bend my knees, and then also wearing knee-high boots, high-heeled boots. That was sort of my favorite look in those days. And I would have sometimes trouble not being able to bend my leg to get the boots off, and I would just be, struggling.
We were amazing. It was an amazing era. It was just there was just something about it. Of course, when you're in the middle of it, you probably don't know you're in the middle of such a cool fucking thing. But there was so much talent and so much style. I mean, like, I hate to admit it, I'm in a pair of Spanx and sneakers now. I'm not proud. I can't do the heels anymore. One of the things that we always hope for, and I joke about, it's not really a joke, but I moved to New York to meet my I thought future husband. One of the very first lies my vagina told me, which was Michael Jackson, didn't happen. It's a sad story. But you not only met one of your great idols, Miss Debbie Harry, but ended up, you've been working with her and collaborating with her for like forever. How the fuck did that, when did that happen and how did that happen?
Well, we ran in the same circles sort of in New York in those days, and she was out a lot and I was out a lot. I mean, I don't know how often she was out, but she was out quite a bit, but I was out every night, you know. And she loves going out still. And so
Does
I
I
would
love that.
yeah, I would see her at the Palladium in the Michael Todd room with Warhol or and Stephen Sprouse or great and Grace Jones would be there and other people from that time, nightlife celebrities from that time as well that were always exciting to see and to meet. But I met Debbie at a Stephen Sprouse party when he opened his shop in Soho. And I guess I got invited through my roommate at the time, Michael Schmidt, because he knew Sprouse and he had met Debbie, but they weren't quite fringe yet at that point. This was like 87, I'm going to say. And I had this paper Kiss jacket on, very colorful, that I still have, that was from the Kiss fan club in like 78 or 79. It was like $10. And somebody tapped me and said, I like your jacket. And I turned around and it was her. I was a huge fan. I mean, I saw Blondie when I was a kid in the late 70s in Southern California. And my brother, brought home all of the Blondie records. And so yeah, I was a big fan. I still am. And so that was exciting. And I think she said that her and Chris had the Kiss jackets as well.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, and then that was it. I don't think we said anything else to each other that I can remember. And then it was very brief. I didn't have my little camera with me at the time, or I would have taken a photo with her or at least of her. And then it was about 2.5 or 3 years later, I did her makeup for the first time. And then in the 90s, when I started DJing and doing parties, she would come around and she seemed to really like what we were doing. And that was very exciting and validating for us when we did Squeezebox because
Please,
a
Bob.
lot of the people from the 70s that we loved and
They
were
came out.
they would come to Squeezebox and hang out and perform. And several people told me from those days that part is very reminiscent of the 70s days, which was a compliment, you know.
Is
Jane
that
County said that, Ace
huge?
Frehley said that, Debbie and Joey Ramone, like so we couldn't have asked for better,
So of course I used to go to
validation.
Squeeze Box, and was the big night Sunday night? I think it was always Sunday night, right?
Friday was
Okay. Well,
Friday was squeezed.
it's Friday. Okay. Somehow your memory better than mine. But I remember, because it's a big New York thing, at least at the time it was, to have a JFK Jr. spotting. And people had seen
Yeah,
him.
he was there.
He was there with all his bros on drag queen night or what. It was a very fucking colorful night. And I saw him
Yeah.
many times there. He fucking loved it. Like, I think it did. It brought out all the luminaries. It was like, because I think we were always searching for that thing that we missed and that you guys created that. And it was such a vibe. How long did Squeezebox last for?
Well, we did it for 7 years. And we had a final party on the on around the right after the 7 year anniversary. Then we did a final goodbye party, and it was Squeezebox was just Friday nights.
Oh, it was just Friday. I
At,
thought it was Sunday. Okay.
no, but at Dawn Hills. So they had other nights during the week. I don't
No,
really
I only
remember.
went to Squeezebox because Patrick was there for Squeezebox,
Yeah,
correct? That
yeah,
was
yeah,
his night that he promoted. No, I only went
yeah,
that night. I only went that night. I think
yeah.
I'm
Fridays was
mixing it up with the Pyramid Club, which Sunday night was drag queen night.
well, that was before Squeezebox. We started Squeezebox in like April of '94. Boy Bar and Pyramid were still open, but they weren't.
They weren't what they
For
were.
me, the heydays were like the mid to late '80s as a person who performed at these places and went to these places. The early '90s, I performed here and there occasionally at Pyramid and Boy Bar, but I was sort of like phasing that world out and doing more of my own thing, like Squeezebox at Dawn Hills. And other parties that I would do. But Squeezebox was certainly the my favorite, and I always said, I would have been there if I hadn't been the DJ because
Yes.
it was so
It
much
was
fun.
it was the fucking best party in town. You were so lucky to be there. It was such a great vibe. I mean, like I left in 94. That's when I started spending more time. I mean, I never left. So obviously I'm still in my same fucking apartment, but I started spending more and more time because I was working out in LA. And as I would come back, there were just less and less over the years, less and less spots to go at. Like, what is that? Is there a scene for young people now? Like, we had it.
I
I don't
have
think
no,
it. What's happening here? I mean, I can't remember the last time I went to the club. I don't know.
I know, not at all. I don't like late nights anymore, and that's why I stopped DJing weekly gigs. I do special events here and there, and they're like 6 to 8 or 7 to 10, and I love that. But
Respectable,
you know,
respectable fucking
yeah.
hours. You said
Uh,
something about had you had your little camera with you when you met Debbie, you would have taken a picture. I can't remember. Did you walk around with like a little fucking camera? Were you a photographer back in the day before you knew you were a photographer? Because you're a brilliant photographer. Like I've looked at your work. It's like amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I always liked photos, and I always, as a child, my parent we had a little Instamatic camera and a Polaroid, and so I would snap photos when we'd have friends and family over for holidays or birthdays. And then when I got to be a young teenager, I started going to concerts a lot with friends and would often try to take the little Instamatic camera. And at some point around 14 or 15, I got my own, which took terrible photos. And but I still have all of those snapshots. And so living in New York, I had a little sort of Instamatic camera that I would often have on me when I would go out or when I was DJing. And so
So you
I would
captured
take
it,
photos of myself with friends or if,
which
yeah.
I
And
know to
I have a
everyone.
lot of nightlife photos from the,
Oops, my penis fell. That sounds like normal to people now because everything's on a phone. But it wasn't like for you to be able to capture those moments in the moment. Nobody was walking around with a fucking camera. Like we really have to rely. I don't think boys go through the menopause, but like the ladies fucking forget everything and mix it up. And that's why, because I said, I remember, wait, my, you stole my boyfriend. And then I'm like, no, he was never your boyfriend. Once we started, I mean, I think like I had a crush on this gorgeous boy that I thought was Italian, and you later told me was Swedish or something, right?
he's Swedish and Hungarian. And he didn't look like a typical Swede because he had the Hungarian darker features. So he had the, dark brown hair and dark red lips.
No, he was so beautiful. Andreas was his name. He was gorgeous. Now, in my brain, he was my boyfriend of many, many months. I probably had one lunch with the motherfucker, and I was madly in love with him, and I was probably stalking him. But I do remember sharing a lunch with you and him, and I wanted him to leave with me, and thus he left with you. I
We
don't
lived with
blame him.
Yeah, I don't blame him either. No, he was straight, but we were very tight, and we're still good friends. I don't see him as much as I'd like to, but he was a sweetheart. We met and hit it off, and became fast friends. And we used to go out all the time. And I have a lot of photos of it with him from those days with my little Instamatic camera. And
Love that.
he looked like Joe Dallesandro in the '70s with long hair.
Painfully gorgeous, the two of you next to it, because we were both so different. But I had to lick my wounds, but then I was like, yeah, whatever connection they have. But that's the thing, Guy, you were not definable. And I think in those days they were trying to define people more than they are now. I mean, they're starting again to try and do it, but like you were just Miss Guy. You couldn't say you were this, you were that, you couldn't ever pigeonhole you. You were just this sort of, you were like, if you were matter, you were just glitter. You like lit up every
Oh,
room. And you were shy. You weren't the one out in front, but everybody would gravitate to you. I remember you just sitting quietly backstage and stuff, but everybody wanted to be around you. And it was, and most of those guys and girls in those days they were fucking tough and intimidating, and you were just sweet. And my producer, Dr. Princess Leia, I mean, I wanted her to be on this episode, but she's like, saving patients,
Oh, well, we'll do
cancer
it.
or something. She's doing something
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
very good. But I mean, she's a better memory than me because she worked at the cat club, so she remembers her days from that. But I mean, when she lights up, when she was like, Miss Guy. I don't know why I haven't seen you in 462
Oh,
years because I adored you. I was probably mad at you that you stole my boyfriend that I didn't have. You know.
well, Andreas is still alive, so you never know.
Send him my best. I don't know if he remembers
I
me.
will.
Please send him my best. And
I've been meaning to text him actually. But, I will. Leia, I met her at the cat club. I used to take Andreas to the cat club. He loved it. I mean, coming from Sweden, they have nightlife. I went once or twice, but it wasn't like New York nightlife. I mean, nothing was like New York
nothing.
nightlife in those days, except some things in London, but everything was, happening in New York for up until a certain point. And so we met in 89, the summer of 89, and he was in love with the nightlife here
Yeah.
because it was unlike he had ever, experienced. And so, yeah, but he was going out into the 90s because he would come to Squeezebox occasionally. He didn't come all the time. But yeah, I mean, Squeezebox was crazy. I often had my camera and I do have a lot of photos from those days, but I would never take a photo of or with a celebrity that came unless I knew them and we were
Right.
friends. But like, there was a long list of outrageous celebrities that came there that we were just like, oh my God, like John F. Kennedy Jr., who was so
Right.
gorgeous and very sweet. But
So fucking
I don't know if I
gorgeous.
didn't have my camera, but if I did, I wasn't gonna ask for a photo. And
Yeah.
I met Golden Pond at Squeezebox and Tour Satanic. A lot of people that I loved and a lot of people that were big stars, but I didn't care about. Like Marilyn Manson came all the time when he was in New York.
Okay, just like it was the most amazing. You know what? They were probably the people that missed Studio 54 because there was nothing like that for a long time. The dance clubs and everything were amazing, but that whole sort of celebrity culture and they came there. I mean, the spottings that you would have at those times, and you would just sort of be with them. It was, it wasn't like
Well, yeah,
clubs in LA were different because I did clubs in LA when I went, and they were different. It was not what was happening here.
no, it's what ended up happening here at some point in the 2000s with like a lot of VIP and
Yeah.
sections and all of that, which was not happening here at all at any point in the 80s or 90s. I mean, you could walk into a club and go right up to Grace Jones sitting at a table in the Palladium or Warhol or, you know,
Miss
Madonna
Guy,
or
that might have just been you. Not all of us could do that.
well, no, I never did that because I was too shy. I would never approach somebody and say I'm a big fan or anything. I just wasn't the type
Right.
in those days. But but it was exciting nonetheless to see these people out. And I also, in the 90s when I was doing Squeezebox and all these people would come there that I admired. I would often meet them then because they would come up to me because I was the DJ and say they liked the music or whatever. But we just thought that that's the way it was. It was exciting and magical, but it didn't seem special necessarily because that's just how New York was. And we thought, oh, this is how it is, and this is how it'll always be. We were wrong to think that
We were
that's
wrong to think
always be
that.
that way.
You
But
don't know.
for
You don't know what you
years, yeah,
got till it's gone because it's
yeah,
just,
yeah.
and I think we realize now, like, and a lot of people have passed from that time, and we realize, like, one, we survived it, two, we thrived it. I mean, look at us. But that I'm so glad. I'm so fucking glad that we did it. And I don't know about you. I was one of the very rare. I did it. I never drank and I never did drugs. Like I went to Save the Robots sober. I don't know if anybody can say that. I was following my cokehead
You were
boyfriend
playing for
there.
them.
But I was a dancer. So I went and I danced my ass off till 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And that was my high and flirt with all these cute girl boys. But I did it. I was completely, you'd think I'd have a better memory of all of it because I was never drunk and never stoned and never anything. I don't think you did a lot of that, did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was never much of, um, but I did drink when I would go out, and I never had any kind of problem with substance, thankfully.
Yeah.
So I was able to dabble here and there and experiment and try different things. And I guess the only thing that I did a lot in my night, club years of going out. Once I became a DJ, I would just have a drink or four, but I wasn't doing drugs. And I never really I didn't really like a lot of drugs. I liked ecstasy. And so I would go out in the late 80s and early 90s and take ecstasy with friends, and that was always fun.
Maybe that's why
And
you were so sweet.
otherwise, uh maybe, I don't know. I'm just, I guess I when I was a DJ and working a lot as a DJ in the 90s, I had, I guess some people, I wouldn't say I had a reputation as being a bitch or being bitchy or,
No, you
but
did not.
well, no, but there were people that thought I was a bitch because I was shy or wouldn't give them the attention that they needed when they came to the DJ booth. But that was only because I was shy and I
Right.
still am. But I was working, and, in those
Yeah.
days, the stuff I was playing, the songs were 3.5 minutes long, and it was vinyl, and I had to really be careful
Yeah.
and pay attention, focus a little bit. But I just, sometimes people, when you're out, are very needy and they can't just say hi and how are you and carry on. They have to like try to have a full conversation when you're DJing, and it's sort of impossible, but it's also very annoying, And it was always people that I wasn't close with, or often people I wasn't close with, because people that I was close with knew, oh, guy's working. He can't have a full conversation right now. And I would have people come up and burst into tears about some problem in their life while I was DJing. And I would be like, are you kidding me? Like,
What?
get lost. I'm sorry. I don't care, first of all. And secondly, I'm working. Like,
Yeah.
people thought because you worked in a club that you were out having a good time and that it wasn't really work, but it was work. And, it's the only job where, you're in the middle of your job and people think they can come up and smack you on the shoulder when I would be
Right.
queuing up a record and putting the needle on the record, and someone would smack my arm. Hey! And I'd be like, the record needle would go, I'd
You
be
were
like,
doing a surgeon's work. How dare
it'd
they?
be rough after a while and people didn't get it. And, you couldn't try to explain it to them because they didn't get it and they didn't care. They just wanted attention, and not everybody. But anyway, it was a fun job for many years. I don't really have
Did
many complaints.
Did you ever make it to Mars? That's where I met our mutual friend, Patrick Briggs. I was
Yeah.
bartending, and a lot of people think I left just to
Mhm.
pursue my career in Hollywood. But I think I told you that there had been a fucking Chinese gang fight one night between the Canal Street gang and the Teo fucks, and we was working the main bar. I've had a lot of life in that bar because I met Prince on the second floor and head to toe polka dot. And on the first floor, I saw a Chinese guy get shot in the neck, and there was mayhem. And Patrick saved my life and put me down under the bar. I was already a working actress. I was already in like a Scorsese movie, but the money was so fucking good on Sunday night. Like Patrick and I were just fucking putting the money, couldn't stop until that night that there was a bar brawl, and I got picked up the next day by the police to go and pick out these gang members in a gang book at the precinct. And they picked me up with this Asian woman, and I thought, oh, is she at the club? Like, who is she? He's like, no, this is the gang member's girlfriend. And I'm like, I'm leaving New York. That's what I started my career in Hollywood. I'm like, I'm getting out of New York for a minute because I'm afraid of Asian people all of a sudden, and I don't want to be afraid of anybody. So I left for a minute, and I think I probably came back around 94 because I always came back and forth, but I remember I took off after that because I know I was there for the squeeze box era, and I thought it was earlier than 94, but if you say it's 94, your memory better than mine.
April of 94. April 15th, 1994 was the first squeeze box.
Wow, Daddy remembers. Okay.
Yeah, and it was all pre 9/11, so it was a different time in New York and a different world. But yeah, I think if I was at a club and saw someone get shot, I would probably head for the hills as
Here's the
well.
thing. It was so
Yeah.
fucking loud. I didn't hear him get shot. I just saw blood explode like a fucking Scorsese movie, who I was probably going to have dinner with right after the explosion because that's how I rolled in those days. And I was I couldn't believe it. And like you see in the movies, like Patrick put me down on the floor and everybody fucking looted our bars. Like everyone went Nazi cuckoo. So I thought, well, I'm going to take a little minute because I had only one other time seen somebody dead in New York because that happens. It was at a restaurant I worked at on the Upper East Side. It was called Cafe Pacifico. Did you remember? Probably didn't go there.
No, but I think I remember
It
it.
was a
Yeah.
front for a prostitution ring. I was just too
Uh,
stupid to know that because the owner, Gloria DeMann, would come up to me and say, how would you like to go to London for the weekend with a nice chic? And I was so fucking stupid. I was like, well, why? I'm Jewish. Like, I didn't understand it. Or she'd say, would you like to get a nice fur coat? And I'm like, I'm a vegetarian. She finally gave up on me, but there was a Colombian drug dealer that was the drug dealer to the restaurant. And one day I was closing or something, and every rock star came in there. Mick Jagger came in there. He stiffed me. Fucking got a free meal for him and Dave Stewart. And he put $2 in mine. $2. Cheap.
it's weird how many huge stars that like don't tip or tip, you know, nothing, very little, and it's very strange. But I've
It's
heard
very,
stories about
maybe that's why
uh,
he's so rich because he's really cheap. And I'll tell you that Leia has a cat club story where he stiffed some waitress at the cat club after getting rounds and rounds and rounds. And he literally said to her, I am rock and roll. So, hi, you're welcome.
a good
And
quote.
honestly, I mean, I was upset about being stiffed because I thought I was going to get a $500 tip or a $200 tip. And in 1986, that's a lot of money. It's my rent. But he didn't, he hesitated as he shoved the two, maybe it was $5, but he put it in my hand and I thought, and now I'm going to get his number or he's going to ask me for mine because he's Mick Jagger and I'm 19 and I'm hot.
Yeah.
Nothing. He thought about it for a second and then he didn't do it. So it was
I
a
mean, in his
double.
defense, English people don't tip really like we do here, and
They
people do.
comped his meal for 10 people.
Right. Well, that's the other thing I was going to say though too is, celebrities are often used to just getting everything for free and
Yeah.
not it's not acceptable at all.
No, because they're the ones who can afford it.
Someone in his circle should have said, oh, you should tip. It's,
Well, I
a
tell you what his
nice
circle
tip.
was. He was sober, I guess, because he was ordering orange juice. And it was Dave Stewart's birthday. And Dave Stewart started with orange juice, but by the end of the night, there was a little vodka in that orange juice. So they were a little worried about him. There were about 10 Brits there, and he didn't quite make it through the night sober. But Mick did not ask my number. It's the 80s. It was the 90s. It
Yeah.
was it was what it was.
Yeah.
Now, Princess Leia told me that is it during the pandemic you started a whole, I guess, a series of photography, a bathtub series? What was that?
No, the pandemic series was I was photographing people like this on FaceTime and Zoom. And
Okay.
I did about, God, I don't know, like 500 people, I think, or 400 people. I can't remember now. But I was doing that for the first year, doing sometimes up to 10 people a day, 5 days a week.
I don't know if you're still
And
doing it, but I'm like I'm not a cat lady, I'm a tub lady. Like I have 4 tubs in my house in LA. I have a problem. And I too, I did this in the pandemic. You did it a little bit before me, but we're such soul sisters because I did a little show called Tub Talk. I said it was like TED Talk, but not as deep. And I would be in my tub and I would just talk. It was Pandemica. And I would just talk to the camera. I had a friend going through chemo. Not chemo. Yeah, chemo. She was going through some sort of cancer thing and she was really protecting. She couldn't see anybody because she was compromised and it was the pandemic. And so the only way to communicate with her was through these little videos that I made. So I would try to make her laugh and I did it on the app Marco Polo. Do you have, on your phone, you could change your voice. You could sound like a big black guy.
Yo, baby, you know I'm obsessed with this voice thing. I think I sound really cool as a guy. I don't even know if you look at these letters. I hope they make you smile because I'm macho. I got titties and a big dick and a full moon and a puppy.
So I did Tub Talk and I almost launched it as a series, but then I did not. So I love everything tub. I'll get in a tub for you. Well, as long as all the scary parts are covered.
It's a very big, deep tub, and the bubbles get very high, so you are in control of what shows or doesn't show. So I've had, and a lot of people were very like, free with, oh, I don't care. I'd be like, I would always say to a girl, oh, your nipple, adjust the bubbles. And or if it was a guy, I can see your dick, adjust the bubbles. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, okay, thanks. And sometimes they'd be like, I don't care. So it was fun. And I want to do a book of those someday too.
But where I saw you again, Princess Leia was talking about get Miss Guy, be amazing, be amazing. And I was like, blast from the fucking past, okay. And then I go to our other mutual friend's art exhibit, Mr. Julian Fleischer, one of the greatest cabaret performers in New York City. He's my friend and neighbor of many years. And he was having his exhibition for the 30th anniversary of his book, The Drag Queens of New York. And I went to the opening, and motherfucker, there you were in all your effing glory. You're so gorgeous. It's so iconic. It captures everything of that era. You went to the show. What did you think about that?
I loved it. I mean, I don't know if I have the book. I maybe had a copy back when it came out in 95 or 6, but Brooke Williams did the photos and she did an amazing job. It was one of the first books I was ever in, probably. I think maybe the second book, I don't know, but I was very excited and happy that Julian asked me to be a part of it because I didn't consider myself a drag queen, but of course I was and whatever. But Julian wasn't there the day I went. I wasn't able to go to the opening. I was out of town, but I went a few days later. And I saw some old friends there. And anyway, I met a friend for lunch and we went to the show. And when we walked in, I was like, oh my God, there's my portrait from the book. Anyway, a couple of old queens I knew from the old days were there. And they're like, oh, look at you. You got like the best spot in the entire, because you walk in and I'm literally right there. And I was like, yeah, that's so, ooh, I felt so special. Then I was talking with someone from Howl that day, and they said, we're doing a couple of more things here and there while the exhibit's running, if you like talks and whatever, if you are interested. And so I said, yeah, shoot me some dates. And I went and I showed some old videos from those days and told a couple stories. So when I went and spoke about that night at Howl about those days and everything, I remembered, I had a vivid memory of the photo shoot and everything. Yeah, but so when I was introduced, Julian said the way that the photos were presented were alphabetical. And I said, oh my God. So I got up on stage and I said, oh, I told the story when I came and I saw some old friends there and they're like, look at you. You have like the best spot in the entire exhibit. I was like, and this is alphabetical? And he's like, yeah, look. I was on stage and he was in the audience and we were like, and I said, oh yeah. I said, how? So it was just random luck that alphabetically. He's like, what else was I going to do with a bunch of queens? And I couldn't choose favorites but I said, yes, of course, I would have done the same thing too, probably. But that day that I went to see it, I didn't really think about it. And I just thought, it's a beautiful photo and it's a good spot and whatever. But I didn't think, oh, is this alphabetical and what's going on? And it was fun doing that night. And it was a nice turnout. And it was fun seeing some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time. And yeah, it was great.
I just to find a whole era that I'm just really grateful that I was a part of, that I survived, that my vagine survived, that we all, because when you crush on those rock stars, you gotta be very careful. You gotta be careful. But mostly I'm just excited to reconnect with you.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Bridget. I'm so excited. And it was great catching up. And I love your podcast. And it's probably the best title of any podcast ever.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Lies My Vagina Told Me is hosted by moi, Brigitte Bako, produced by Jacques Telemaque and Leah Sherman, artwork by Leah Sherman, theme and original music by Jack Moore for balladguitar.com. See you next time on Lies My Vagina Told Me.